Greetings, loved ones. Today we're going to talk about understanding child trauma. Help us get these messages out. Please subscribe to our channel, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Hit the like button, the notification bell, and please share these messages with others. You could save a life. Child trauma occurs more than you think, so we need to understand it. More than 2/3 of children reported at least one traumatic event by age 16. These potentially traumatic events include psychological, physical, or sexual abuse, community or school violence, witnessing or experiencing domestic violence, national disasters or terrorism, commercial sexual exploitation, sudden or violent loss of a loved one, refugee or war experiences, military, family-related stressors, for example, deployment, parental loss or injury, physical or sexual assault, neglect, serious accidents, or life-threatening illness. So let's have some fast facts about child trauma right now. At least 1 in 7 children have experienced abuse and or neglect in the last year, and this is likely an underestimate. In 2019, 1,840 children died of abuse and neglect in the United States. Each day, more than 1,000 youth are treated in emergency departments for physical assault-related injuries. In 2009, 1 in 5 high school students reported being bullied on school property in the past year. 8% of high school students had been in a physical fight on school property 1 or more times during the 12 months before the survey. Each day in the United States, about 14 youth die from homicide, and more than 1,300 are treated in emergency departments for violence-related injuries. It's important to recognize the signs of traumatic stress and its short and long-term impact. The signs of traumatic stress may be different in each child, and young children may react differently than old children. So again, we're going to talk about this. We're going to split it up into different age groups. So let's talk about preschool children. They are going to have fear of being separated from their parent or the person who's giving them care because they're afraid something may happen. They may cry a lot, they may scream a lot, they may eat poorly or lose weight, they may have nightmares, wet the bed. These are things that are out of the normal. If something changes and you begin to see these symptoms, they could be trauma related. In elementary school children, they will become anxious or fearful. They will feel guilt or shame. They'll have a hard time concentrating, and they will have difficulty sleeping. In middle and high school children, they'll start doing the feeling depressed or feeling alone and abandoned. They might develop the eating disorders or begin self-harming behaviors, begin abusing drugs or alcohol, and they also may become involved in risky sexual behavior. Our body has an alarm system. Everyone has an alarm system in their body that is designed to keep them safe from harm. When activated, this tool prepares the body to fight or to run away. And the alarm can be activated at any perceived sign of trouble, and this will leave children feeling scared, angry, irritable, or even withdrawn. So let's talk about some healthy steps that kids can take to respond to alarm. They need to recognize what activates the alarm and how their body reacts. Now, we're talking about children who have trauma experiences. They recognize that something happens and it triggers them. It activates their alarm, and their body begins to react in a way. We need to teach them to understand that this is a trauma-related stress reaction. They need to learn to decide whether there is real trouble and seek help from a trusted adult. So if they're beginning to feel anxious and unsafe, they need to recognize that, and we need to teach them to go to an adult to make sure that they're safe and they can see that they're not really in a dangerous situation. Another thing they can do is they can practice deep breathing and other relaxation methods. We can teach them, when you start to feel anxious, take a moment and breathe. We can do this as adults also. Take a moment and breathe. So what is the impact of trauma on children? This impact of child traumatic stress can last well beyond childhood. I said this in our last episode. Researchers showed that child trauma survivors may experience learning problems, lower grades, more suspensions and expulsions, more fights at school, increased use of health and mental services. Maybe they have a headache or a stomach ache every day and they're going to the nurse's office. Increased involvement with the child welfare and juvenile systems because they're acting out and doing things they shouldn't be doing. And they can also have long-term health problems caused by the stress, like diabetes and heart disease. So trauma is a risk factor for nearly all behavioral health and substance use disorders. But I want you to know, in the middle of all this stuff we're talking about, there is hope. There is healing beyond this. You know, being involved in church too, there's a lot that we can do with God to help us to overcome these things. So it's not just the steps that we do, and I'll be talking in other episodes more about this too. But remember that walking with God and being with God can be a way to overcome these stresses. Children can and do recover from these traumatic events, and you can play an important role in their recovery. And a critical part of children's recovery is having a supportive, caring system, access to effective treatments, and service systems that are trauma-informed. You know, in the church, you could do a trauma program. There's a great book called Soul Care, which is an amazing book that you can use to help. We have a book here in Honduras that we, Mujeres Heridas, that's the wounded woman. There's a lot of wonderful Christian things that you can get into to help discover the root causes of our problems so that we can heal from them. In addition, these are some service systems that can be provided, but they need to be trauma-informed. According to the CDC, over half of all children in the world, that's 1 billion children ages 2 to 17, experience violence every year. So the question is not if you're going to encounter a victim of violence. The question before God is, what will you do when you do encounter them? Remember, you could be the person who saves a life, a teenager who's depressed and anxious and thinking about suicide, and you step in with the love of God and you bring her into a trauma recovery program such as Soul Care or Mujer Herida. There are a bunch of emotionally, here I have a book right here, the Emotionally Healthy Spirituality. This one's in Spanish. You know, there are different things that you can do to provide in your church trauma-informed services for victims. You know, Micah 6:8 says, He has showed you, O man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you to do justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with your God? Do justice is the first thing, and it is an act. It's something you're supposed to do. You are called. We are all called to be champions for justice, and there is a way out. If you are suffering from violence, I want you to know there is a way out. It's not your fault. No matter what the person says, if they abuse you, they're not loving you. They're lying to you. You are not alone. I want you to know that. You are not alone. There is somebody. Reach out to somebody. If you're suffering violence, reach out to somebody today. If you're in a dangerous situation, call 911 and get the help you need. If you know of a child or other person suffering violence, tell the authorities. In our next episode, we're going to talk about trauma and your family. Until then, God bless you.